Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here with Hannah Burr. Good evening, Hannah.
Good evening. How are you?
Doing good. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I was gonna again try to maybe do this by myself last week, but then I was like, nah, I need to talk to somebody.
Oh, there was a lot that came out. Yeah. We
Yeah, but
had
I
a death
was
in the family, so I had to go to, I needed to go to a
yes,
funeral. So,
of course, yeah. So I was on my own, but I was thinking, Ahsoka is too much there to talk about by herself. So I was like, no, I'll wait till Hannah gets back. So we are back. Yes, and the prayers obviously for your family and you.
Thank you.
For
Appreciate that.
But we are less than 2 weeks from Ahsoka. Man.
Yes, we are.
Yes, 2 weeks from yesterday. They got a lot of TV spots and things dropping right now. A lot of little clips here and there. I'm watching them, but they're not revealing. They're pretty much showing the same stuff. Not too much new stuff, but so it's very still secretive a little bit about what this thing's about, I feel like.
Is it though? Like, I don't know. Maybe it's that we know the overarching goal of it, but yeah, like I feel like there's so many tidbits here and there that it's really hard to zero in and focus on what is this actually going to be about.
Right, and I'll tell you one thing that's pretty crazy. There's an article I found that says it talks about the eight. Let me see. Yeah, the 8 big rumors.
Okay.
About the Ahsoka series. Now, these are rumors, completely rumors, things that, and we've talked about them probably a little bit here, but right. One of them, of course, is that Luke Skywalker will return.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's possible. Mm-hmm. I don't know in the series, but maybe in the movie.
Yes.
That's kind of the talk about. And then you've got the next one being, like, where is Thrawn when shows up here? Is he back in the galaxy, or is he somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's not necessarily a rumor. I think that's actually a valid question. Like, we need to know where he is.
I wonder if he went back to the Chiss embassy.
Yeah, I would think so. I definitely think there's going to be more Chiss involved in this.
Good. I would love to see some of the characters that we see in the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy.
Yes. Which you are through. I'm not through yet. Trying to get through there.
I want Ariana so bad. I want her so bad. Oh, she's so good. Anyway.
Another one is, the rumored flashbacks of a young Ahsoka Tano, like live action flashbacks.
Okay.
So that's been rumored out there. Now, this one's a little weird. A deadly new class of stormtroopers. Ones that possibly are like zombified in a sense, or rose from the dead type.
What?
I don't know if that's, I don't know about that one.
I mean, I get cloning, but Palpatine dipping into necromancy?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Rebuild. Yeah, it's like grand, Thrawn kind of rebuilding, but he's rebuilding from dead stormtroopers, I guess. That's kind of, again, rumors. Another one, Captain Rex coming back.
Yes.
Which I definitely think that's going to happen.
Please.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Maybe that's part of a flashback, but even so, it would be great.
That's right. It's true. Yes. Apparently there could be an Ezra Bridger series. Not that he shows up necessarily in this, but rumor has it that maybe he has his own show coming. But I would venture to say no, just because of what Iger's been saying about not really doing too much more Star Wars right now.
Yeah.
So
That one seems weird.
yeah, that was definitely weird. This one is, I've heard this before, and this is kind of mind blowing a little bit, but apparently there's a rumor that we're going to return to Mustafar, where we see the battle of Obi-Wan and Anakin in Revenge of the Sith, but instead it's Ahsoka instead of Obi-Wan fighting Anakin. Almost as what the rumor is that this is a kind of world between worlds type flashback. I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know about that. There's also a rumor, kind of in that we will be seeing glimpses of a live action version of what happened in Rebels when Vader and Ahsoka were fighting.
That would be cool.
Yes, it'd be incredible.
But I don't know how I feel about the whole like in between worlds, multiverse-y thing. Like, no, just no. No.
Yeah, I'm not sure why you would do that.
That makes no sense.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's almost like a what if scenario.
Yeah, no.
And I don't know why you would introduce that necessarily.
Why? Like, what is the purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Like, at that point, just show flashbacks of a live action version of their fight in Rebels. Like,
yeah.
You don't need to do both. Just do the one that already exists and is already incredibly powerful.
Yes. Yeah, so, yeah, that's interesting. I don't know how I would feel about that. But, because if you're... even when Rebels introduced that whole world between worlds, you definitely are introducing the kind of retcon method. Like if you don't like something, you can take it back, by changing it. That right there, that introduces just a whole myriad of problems in the end.
Yeah.
Because you never can keep up with continuity. You can never believe what's real or not, I mean, I like it, the fact that they figured out how to use it to bring Ahsoka back, but, that, yeah, I'm with you. Maybe just leave it alone.
I think like that was a special circumstance for that one thing.
Yes.
Don't mess with it too much. Unless there's like some huge error you think happened that needs to be retconned.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Which I don't think, like, could you even guess what that might be? What they would want to change?
Well, I think what they're thinking of this scene is how they're just wanting to show, for some reason, how Ahsoka would have handled the situation with Anakin, like becoming Darth Vader, being the Padawan, not the master that's fighting him. But I just don't, I just don't know how she would have gotten there, because she obviously walked away from the Order.
Yeah.
Months before this happens. She's actually, when this is happening, I believe she's, let's see, Order 66 happens. Yeah, she's like dealing with that whole thing on that Star Destroyer, and it's crashing, and
she's dealing with Maul. She's dealing with Rex.
Exactly.
And she's dealing with... Yeah. So
that whole thing wouldn't have happened, and she would have had to been somewhere else. So I don't know how they, and actually I saw an article too that they possibly are developing a what if Star Wars series, which again doesn't really make sense, but maybe that's what this is kind of alluding to. But I don't know. But again, this is live action, so they would have spent a lot of money figuring out how to recreate that whole bring Hayden back and put him in that that get up again, and then shoot the whole thing on Mustafar again. So I don't know. I just don't know it's hard to wrap my head around why you would do that in the first place in a way.
Right. Yeah. That I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the other last cliffhanger the last rumor is a possible major cliffhanger at the end of this series this season, which completely makes sense. They're basically saying that this series is almost the comparable to the Empire Strikes Back part of the Mandoverse, where the good guys are kind of failing and the bad guys are winning. And then we get to kind of the Return of the Jedi type when you get to the movie.
Right.
And you have everybody fighting Thrawn or whatever, I guess. So,
So who's going to get frozen in carbonite?
Right. Yeah. Sabine, maybe.
Maybe.
Right? Maybe.
Mm.
Yeah. So anyway, rumors. I actually didn't intend to bring that up, but we were kind of talking about what can happen in the series. And the layout, obviously 8 episodes. You've got 2 premiering on the first day, which I think I've heard also the runtime. It's basically a movie premiere because it's 1 hour and 36 minutes for both episodes.
For both? Wait, combined an hour 36 or hour 36?
Yeah.
Okay. For a second, I thought you meant an hour 36 each.
No, yeah, no. Both shows together. Basically, we're getting a feature film premiere. Basically.
All right.
Yeah, I can dig that.
Okay. Does that satisfy your little movie itch for a second?
It does, and I like. I think that's a good idea. Like, I loved when they premiered The Bad Batch, and The Bad Batch was that feature length. It was like 75, 80 minutes or something like that, the whole big premiere. That was really cool. I think kicking off like that is definitely a good idea. In fact, you probably should end it that way also, but doesn't look like they're going to.
Maybe not.
Yeah. Or end it that way. Like if you had just a single premiere, but then ended with a movie, that would work too.
Or just have a really super long final episode.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure it's gonna probably, after this first 2 episodes, it's probably gonna be the normal like 40 minutes or so episodes, and we'll see. I feel like the ending episodes have been shorter than most. Because they've already kind of wrap it up in the first part of it, and then it just kind of lingers on and ends. But no, I noticed that in the Marvel series too, that they've been shorter season premieres or season endings. Anyway, so yeah, Ahsoka coming out. Another quick thing. So Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, came out and did a quarterly report a couple days ago, or I think it might have been yesterday. But he basically revealed the direction that Disney is taking. One is that Disney Plus is going to be raising the rates, and there's going to be an ad-based platform, and you can then pay more for no ads. But also next year, just like Netflix did, they're getting rid of the whole shared password thing. So based on where you are, you won't be able to, it's going to be more location based, so if your parents are sharing it in a different state, unfortunately, they're not going to be able to use it, or vice versa.
Well, but you can have different profiles in different states, right?
No.
What?
Because the account is under all the same account.
At this point, why do we even have streaming services anymore? They're all turning into TV, essentially. Like
they're all turning into cable channels, Basically, yes.
Well, what's the point?
I don't know. Yeah. No, it's basically getting to that point. And I think a lot of people predicted that. I mean, I remember reading a lot that these streaming servers, there's no way they're gonna maintain the subscribership that they needed to, afford it, and unless they start raising their prices. But then you're looking at just paying for cable at that point. So Disney Plus came out pretty strong out of the gate. It was COVID, right before COVID, and everybody's home then, and people bought this thing, and Mandalorian was a huge hit, obviously, and had other things that were on there. But anyway, Iger's saying all these things. He also released and talked about the upcoming new series and new programming that's coming on to Disney Plus the rest of the year. And I read an article that highlighted and made sure to let everybody know that on that, now the list may not have had everything, but you would think it would have this. Skeleton Crew is missing off the list. Apparently that was supposed to be rumored to be premiering this winter or late fall, but it was not on the list. So it either possibly suggesting that it's either getting pushed to 2024 or maybe we won't be getting it.
Man.
Can't imagine we won't be getting it because it's already done.
Right.
But it seems like it's gonna be pushed to 2024. I think what could be the issue is that there could have been some new pickups and some lines they need to get, and they can't use them right now.
Right.
Because of the strike.
That's a good point. The strike could be playing a huge part of it. So, and because of that, they don't even know what's going to happen because they don't know when it's going to end.
Yeah, that's right. To me, that would be the only reason you would have to delay, because you need to do it, which is normal. You're always doing pickups or reshoots or something.
Yeah, and the actors are on strike too, so you need both the writers and the actors for those pickups.
That's right. So anyway, I was hoping we would get some kind of promo or trailer for Skeleton Crew at some point, maybe during Ahsoka or maybe at the end of Ahsoka, which is still possible, I guess. But yeah. So anyway, Miss Skeleton Crew is somewhat missing on there, but hopefully we'll get something from that. And then one of the last bit of news I wanted to mention, and I think you kind of know, I think we were talking about this a little bit, but in one of the latest issues of the Star Wars comics, there is, the Star Wars series right now is taking place between Empire and Return of the Jedi. And I was telling Hannah, we need to get on this because I really want to read these and talk about them on Beyond the Saga. But apparently we're at to the point now in that series where Luke is getting his green lightsaber together.
Yes.
Right? He's getting ready to go do his thing at Jabba. Although we don't know, because that scene in Jabba is not canon anymore. There was a deleted scene where he builds his green lightsaber. Mm-hmm. So actually we don't know how far in advance he actually had his lightsaber before Return of the Jedi. Apparently this comic probably takes place right before then or shortly before then. But anyway, it kind of suggested, now again, I haven't read this yet, but I've just read some articles about it. But apparently it suggests how a person or a Jedi can choose the color they want their blade to be.
Yes.
Which wasn't the case kind of in the Clone Wars, or, wasn't. But, looking back, I don't know if it ever was not said how the colors come, right? It just kind of varied depending on your, there was always this spectrum of your Force essence spectrum is what the kyber crystal reacts to. But the kyber itself is still it's white. It starts out white, and now the question, I guess, becomes, I got to dive into the comics, is whether or not the crystal actually changes color, or it's just the hue of the blade that changes color. Because I do think I know when a dark side user makes the crystal bleed, it does turn it red. Like
Yes.
It's bleeding. But I don't know I don't think it's making a Jedi is making it turn a certain color. It's just basically choosing what color the blade is going to be, I guess. But I don't know if you run into we were talking about that. I don't know if I can't remember if you said you read somewhere else, something else, or
so it's
maybe not.
I don't know, because like part of it makes sense, at least in like video gameplay, that you get to choose what the color of your lightsaber is. So that makes sense there.
Mm-hmm.
What doesn't make sense, like I don't know if I like the fact that you can choose it, because like unless it's like you make the choice once and that's what it is forevermore. But then why, when Ahsoka stops the red crystals or the kyber crystals from bleeding in the novel Ahsoka, why is it white? Why didn't return back to its original color?
Yeah, I do remember. I do remember Filoni saying something that a crystal that's healed is a white blade.
Okay. Well, then why start off as white then, if it's a healed blade?
Correct. That part I don't know. That's why I think it was always suggested that, because we saw in the episode The Gathering in the Clone Wars where the crystal calls to you, right? You're in a cave full of kyber crystals, but you can't see them. You can only see the one that was meant for you. Mm-hmm. And that crystal is white. And for some reason, when you grab that white crystal and build your saber around it, when you first ignite it, it is a certain color. And normally it's either blue or green. The rare instance that it's been, purple for Mace, and I think one other older Jedi, or in Rey's case, it's yellow, which technically are actually the Temple Guard's colors. They have yellow blades, which that means theirs is more synthetic than actual, right? Because they're all the same color.
I don't think it's synthetic. I think that's probably part of the calling for you as well, because like the whole thing, you find out more about this in the novel Rise of the Red Blade. The Force calls you to a position in the Jedi Order. And so I think that falls in line with, like, if you grabbed a crystal and it went yellow, that shows the Force is calling you to be
a guard. Oh, okay.
Guard.
See,
like, I think it's like that because, and also in like some of the training you do based on whatever master picks you or feels like the Force is calling to pick you, they train you in certain aspects. And that's what makes people think, oh, this is what your path is going to be as a Jedi. And it kind of informs. So, like, in my mind, that color blade is one way to help see what role you play in the Jedi Council. Or not in the Jedi Council, but in the Jedi Order in general.
Jedi Order, yeah.
So you get a yellow blade. So in my mind, like, there's nothing that says this is how it goes. It's not synthetic or whatever. But in my mind, if your blade immediately turns yellow, then that's the Force telling you you are meant to be a Temple Guard.
Okay.
That's...
Yeah, I can definitely get on board with that, yeah.
And, like, I haven't gotten to this point in the book yet, but the yellow blade that we see in Rise of the Red Blade, like, that was their lightsaber. That was the lightsaber's color. So that's another reason to lead me to believe that the color, like, was, like, it wasn't like the person said, I want it to be yellow. Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember back when. Do you remember before? It was before the Clone Wars animated series came out. They had that micro series that was hand drawn or cartoon looking. It was called Clone Wars, but it was like it was all 2D animation. It wasn't 3D animation. Did you ever watch those?
I didn't
It
watch
was
them, but I vaguely remember that being a
yeah.
thing.
That was like George Lucas's test of if he was going to do Clone Wars that way or if he was going to go into 3D animation. And he obviously chose 3D animation, but he put those out there, so they're not canon now. But I remember in one of those episodes, Yoda or Mace or somebody ends up on Elam, where all the kyber crystals are, and in that show, it was when you walked into the caves there, and all the kyber crystals there, they were all different colors. They were green, blue, and purple crystals. So that was insinuating that that's why the blade was a certain colors, because the crystal was a certain color. Which to me, honestly, makes absolute sense. Why not have different colored crystals? You can solve it easy that way. Not sure if George wanted to keep them white or Filoni ended up keeping them white, but
or maybe Disney just wanted more money, so they're creating color, like as many colors as they can for blades.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. When you go to Disney, yeah, the crystals are colored, right? When you're at Galaxy's Edge, you are buying a colored crystal. So I don't know. They could be insinuating again. That's why they could be insinuating now in this comic that a Jedi is actually changing the color of the crystal.
That's weird, though.
I guess that's possible.
I guess.
Yeah. Or again, like you said, maybe you're not choosing the color. You're just, your calling or your essence is changing it when you're using it, using the Force to guide the use of the crystal, right? So maybe that's it. I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be some explanation at some point about it, but I thought that was interesting. I want to get into that comic series to see that. So
yes.
Okay, some just reminders on some releases coming up here. Of course, Rise of the Red Blade came out this past July. Hannah's actually in the middle of that book right now.
Yep.
What's your take? What's your quick review on that right now?
Quick review is I've loved it up until the point where I stopped.
Well, you're gonna finish it though, right?
Oh, I'm still gonna finish it. Yeah, I'm not. Okay. I gotta finish it now. I'm like 2/3 done. I gotta keep going.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's been very interesting to get into someone's psyche and see the rationalization, the justification. And honestly, you're like, wow, the Jedi suck. I'm sorry. Like, that's how it is. Like, I won't go into it too much, but it's a different perspective, and I absolutely love that. Absolutely love it.
Okay. So that came out back in July, and then the next novel, From a Certain Point of View, Return of the Jedi, of course, 40th anniversary this year of Return of the Jedi. That's August 29th. There's a lot of little stories that are popping out right now that are in there that seem interesting. So looking forward to that. Crimson Climb, once again, the junior or the young adult novel about Kira, is October 10th. High Republic, The Eye of Darkness, November 14th, which kicks off Phase 3. And then Defy the Storm, March 12th, that ends Phase 3. Comics, you got this past week, Star Wars 37, Max Rebo #1. And then next week, Darth Vader 37, the 23rd, Dr. Aphra #35. And then at the end of the month, August 30th, Bounty Hunters 37. And The Mandalorian Season 2, #3. So, yeah, obviously your main ongoing comics right now, Star Wars, Vader, Aphra, and Bounty Hunters are still going strong. So go get those. They're in the 30s out there. So, all right. In the spirit of, theming these months out now a little bit, we're in August. Last month we did some good talks about the Jedi Order itself. Now we're going to focus our attention on Ahsoka a little bit as we get ready for her series, as she continues her journey through the New Republic, through the Mandoverse, I guess is what everybody's calling it.
Oh my.
Yeah. The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, all these shows tying together. Basically, it's the Filoni-verse in a sense, if you want to go even further.
Okay.
So let's, Ahsoka. So let's go back to the beginning. 15 years ago this week, the Star Wars Clone Wars movie debuted in theaters. Did you even see it in the theater, Hannah?
I did not.
So I did.
Did you?
Yes. And I got to admit, this thing came out of nowhere. I had no idea that they were even making this thing. Because, this is 3 years after Revenge of the Sith debuted. That was May of 2005. And I remember thinking, the only thing I had heard was happening was maybe a live action Underworld TV series that George was working on. And they had written 100 scripts, but they kept talking about it. They had to keep waiting until technology kind of caught up or where they can start shaving some of the budget, because it was way too much. It was like basically a feature-length movie every episode. So I kept thinking and hoping and praying that maybe one day we get a live action Star Wars series. But then all of a sudden, I remember sitting there looking at, hey, I wonder what's in the theaters these days. And I literally saw Star Wars, the Clone Wars. And I was like, what? There's actually a Star Wars movie? And I remember looking at just the poster and obviously noticing that it was an 3D animated movie. And so I called Chad up, and me and him went and saw it. And I remember sitting in there watching this and thinking, crazy effects. This is early on. 3D animation was 3D animated, right? 3D animation, obviously it was definitely up there. That you saw the Star Wars movies and all the movies that they were making that had 3D effects. So 3D animation, and it wasn't perfect, right? There was, especially the first season of Clone Wars, there's definitely some flaws in it. But I remember watching this thing in the theater thinking, wow, this is great. This is the way we're going to get Star Wars. I can dig this. Now, Ahsoka was introduced in this movie, and there were some controversial exchanges and lines that took place in the movie, like Sky Guy and Snips and things like that. But, like all Star Wars is definitely geared for kids also, right? So you have to have that, that part of it in there. But overall, and of course it was about Jabba's kid and, Jabba's son getting kidnapped. But you also got the introduction of Asajj in there, and there were some great lightsaber battles. But I just remember thinking, like, okay, well, this is going to be interesting if we actually do get into the Clone Wars series, because again, I didn't know at the time that they were actually doing this whole series. But I wonder how they're going to explain if Dooku and Anakin fight, or if Dooku and Obi-Wan fight, because episode 3 almost made it seem like they had not seen each other in a while.
Right.
So But I think they did a good job of that. So anyway, overall, I wasn't all that. I mean, I didn't mind Ahsoka in the movie, but she didn't at first, jump out to me as this character that was going to be the focal point as they got into the series, right? So when were you introduced to Ahsoka? Do you remember?
Clone Wars. But I didn't really sit down and watch because you're also talking to someone who didn't have cable television until 11th grade. We just didn't have a need for it.
Yeah.
So we didn't get it until we needed it. Like the higher internet speed and all that for school at that point. So I really didn't actually start watching the Clone Wars until college.
Mm-hmm.
It was on a couple of times. And then when I got Disney Plus, that's when I really dove into the Clone Wars because there was no other way for me to watch it. So that was the TV show, The Clone Wars, was my first introduction to Ahsoka. And I actually watched that at the same time of watching Rebels.
Oh, okay.
So I watched both of them so I kind of got introduced to Ahsoka. And actually, now that I think about it, I don't think I actually ever saw the original Clone Wars movie. So it was kind of like a huge assault of Ahsoka all at once.
Yeah.
Now I was aware of Ahsoka, but my first time actually hearing about Ahsoka and learning about Ahsoka was during a Disney Star Wars weekend where I actually met the voice of Ahsoka. And I was talking to her about the character, and I'm like, I'll be honest, I'm not that familiar with Ahsoka. And hearing her explain who Ahsoka was, that was my first introduction to the character. So, and that was such a unique experience because she's spunky, but she's ambitious, and she has the biggest heart for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's who Ahsoka is.
Which describes Ashley Eckstein too. I mean,
it does.
She's great.
So that was my introduction to Ahsoka. It was a little tidbit there from Ashley, and then it was just an onslaught of the show.
So what was your reaction to her? How did you feel about her presence and what she meant to this series?
I love her. Ahsoka is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars in general. She's up there with Leia for me.
And that was your immediate reaction, or is that your reaction over time?
No, that was my immediate reaction. I was like, oh, I like her. I love the fact that, because at first when I learned that Anakin took on a Padawan, I'm like, that's silly.
Yeah.
Why are you giving a guy who we see in the movies is very irresponsible and very immature?
Yeah.
Why are you putting someone? But I think I forget the first interaction I saw between the two of them, but I was like, oh, that's why. Because she can take him on. She can challenge him. She can teach him as he teaches her. So I loved her from the get-go. I thought, she's spunky, but she really cares about people. And I honestly think if you were to think of somebody who truly embodies what a Jedi should be, she's one of the prime examples.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good point.
I thought that, she had that balance of it's okay to have emotions. You just can't be too attached.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, because I was watching the Clone Wars seasons as they were coming out. Each week I was watching those. And, it took a while. It actually took a while for it to be focused on Ahsoka, because at first there was a lot of episodes that were focused on the clones. We wanted to get George wanted us to get to know the clones, that they weren't just soldiers, they were personalities.
Right.
And so we got to introduce to Fives and Heavy and Rex and Cody and Tubbs and all these, all these ones that we learned about first. So we can kind of feel sympathy for them as they're just dragged in this war for no reason. And in the end, obviously knowing that, they were kind of just thrown away, set aside for doing this once the Empire took over. But Ahsoka, she kind of really came into her own, I feel like, towards the end of the first season and into the second season. And then it really became more about her and her relationship with Anakin. And, and then her, like you said, her relationship with everybody. Padme, she had a good relationship with, and of course, finding her way in these different situations where, there was times where she was abandoned and had to survive on her own. And then there was times where she was fighting Asajj by herself, tied up with these bounty hunters, cross paths with Boba Fett, young Boba Fett a few times. So it was, you just started watching her in all these situations and how much she complimented Anakin, but also disagreed with him on a lot of things, It was really a truly great dynamic. And I love in the end, I remember at the end of season 5 when she walks away and I remember thinking, whoa, that's big. That was a big, powerful episode. And I remember thinking, like, it even felt like the end of the series. Like, it felt like, because you could easily, obviously, that kind of obviously makes sense why she wasn't in the movies, right? She walks away from the Order, and then, you would be kind of fine with it now, being a couple months later, and then episode 3 happens. But, we get and unfortunately that was when the buyout happened and they canceled the show because there was going to be several more seasons.
Yeah.
But they brought her back. She wasn't really in the Lost episodes very much. In fact, I think she was only in 1 or 2 of those, which was season 6. Mm-hmm. And then, but you really bring her back, obviously, in season 7. You see her come back and then, of course, fight Maul. And and then you wrap it up. She's the last thing. You basically see the ending, which she was introduced to the series in the very first movie. So I thought it was a really good tie-in to see, because as you look back now and watch it all, it is actually really Ahsoka and Rex's story throughout. That's what's so great about the last episodes with them together. And I got to tell you that she grew on me. I liked her, but I didn't, have this overwhelming love for her at first. I was, like I said, I was more interested. I actually gravitated more towards the clones and Anakin and Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars series at first, because I was just big on the actual Clone Wars. I love these little storylines that were happening all around the galaxy, and just really learning more about this huge conflict that we just heard in the movies, 1 or 2 lines in the movies. So I didn't really focus on her until later in the seasons, and I was like, wow, this girl's really growing up in the middle of this conflict and maturing really rapidly and getting highly skilled. Like, she's a very skilled Jedi.
There's a reason why she survives Order 66.
That's exactly right. One of the few. So, yes, she has easily become one of my favorite Star Wars characters now. But, I do recall when when this first came out and the series first started, she was very unpopular.
Oh
And
yeah.
no one was talking about Ahsoka. So what are the few things, Hannah, to you that that you think maybe why did people turn now? Why? Because now it feels like everybody loves Ahsoka.
Yeah.
What are the things that people finally woke up to, basically?
That's a really, really tough question. I wonder if the final season of the Clone Wars had anything to do with that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, I think her popularity was growing. Honestly, I think her popularity grew after she left the Jedi Order.
Yeah, I was about to say it was when she left the Jedi Order. I think it's because it was such a bold move. Like we
Yes.
haven't seen that before, and boldness draws attention. But I would
And
probably,
I think very surprising that she,
yeah.
that she made that decision.
But I actually think it was Rebels that helped with her popularity.
Yes, true.
Because, I mean, one of the highlights of that entire series is her fight with Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think it's like, oh, here's somebody who's not really a Jedi. Like they don't consider themselves a Jedi, and yet they have lightsabers. Like
Right.
it created this whole air of mystery. And it created this something new that we've never seen before in Star Wars. So I think her leaving the Jedi Order, that moment is what made everybody more interested in her. And then I honestly do believe Rebels played a huge role
Yes.
in her popularity. And then people went back, rewatched the Clone Wars, and then they realized that she really was great this entire time.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think that's what it was, because I think what happened was when people were liking her, and then she leaves,
Yeah.
and I think all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I didn't want her to leave. I really liked that character.
That's exactly what it is. It was like she slowly worked her way into people's hearts, and then all of a sudden she was gone, and it was like,
Yes.
wait, she's gone? Why does this
Yes.
feel wrong? Why does this feel off? Why do I feel like part of my soul is gone? Like, what?
Exactly.
So I honestly think that's what happened. It was like this comfortable relationship we developed with this character, and then she left, and we're like, well, what becomes of her? And then we find out what becomes of her, and it's like this really cool enigma. So now we want to
Yeah.
study her more.
Yeah. And like you said, when she comes back, she all of a sudden comes back, and now she's dealing with Vader, not Anakin. So you all, and that's what's crazy, is that you never would have thought, through the history of Star Wars, through all the movies that we had prior to the Clone Wars, that Anakin had a Padawan, and
Right.
that he ends up fighting this Padawan as Darth Vader. Like, that just, craziness. And it still works. It still works in the lineups of the movies and everything. So yeah, I think the loss of her, and then her comeback in Rebels, yeah, that definitely propelled her, I think.
Absolutely.
Her being able to withstand Vader, because you could see in Rebels, Vader was easily defeating Kanan and Ezra. Like, they were no match. But Ahsoka, she's a match.
She is. And it kind of reminds you that she's not only a match in skill, but she's also a match in personality.
Yes, yes. And then, of course, the biggest mind blow is, I never would have guessed we would have got her in live action.
Never. I thought maybe she would have like died of old age or something. Like I thought Rebels was the last we were going to see. Well, in canon timeline, Rebels is the last that we would see of her.
Correct.
I'm glad we got her back in a final season of Clone Wars, but yeah, live action, like it was like, what?
Yes.
what?
Yes.
And I didn't, like, I'll be honest, I didn't really know how to feel about that at first. And to me, she felt like rather stiff and cold, which I'm like, that's not Ahsoka. What's going on? But then, like, as you watch more and more of her, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, she's still there. She's still there. I don't know.
Yeah, it was incredibly surprising. You know, again, one of those things where you never thought Mandalorian would go that way, you know, introduce Jedi or introduce the Force. Because this again felt like it was more going to be an underground or underworld type show. But wow, I mean, yeah, we got a live action Ahsoka that interacts with Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
I mean,
Also, I somebody created this short little movie when she's like, you remind me of your father, or that's something your father would do. And then it cuts to a shot of Luke standing in front of Grogu, and then his lightsaber ignites.
oh, jeez.
I know, talk about dark, but anyway,
Yeah.
I like the fact that they're interacting with each other. There's something really, really sweet about that.
Yes. Yeah.
Like it's sweet. Like there's no other way to put it. So I'm glad it happened.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still waiting for Force Ghost Anakin to make an appearance or something in front of Ahsoka. That would be interesting.
That would be interesting. And that could be why Hayden comes back also in this. I mean, that might be something we see. Instead of a flashback, maybe he's a Force Ghost in this.
Maybe.
That would be pretty incredible. But yeah, that's Ahsoka. I think that was. I think there's a lot more. We'll dive more into her next week as we get ready for. We got next week's episode, and then we've got the premiere, and we'll definitely talk about it here on Inside the Force.
Yes.
Big, long. I mean, I'm sure we'll have it's an hour and 36-minute premiere, so I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about with that.
Probably.
All right, yeah. Let us know your thoughts on Ahsoka, how you got first introduced to her, and what you felt like as the years went by. Because again, we've now have had Ahsoka for 15 years.
Dang.
And yeah, right. Okay, let's see. Let's get some comments from our last episodes here. Our last episode from Thrawn Addict. Excited to hear Donald Glover is writing the new Lando series. Actually, didn't think the series was still happening, so quite a nice surprise. I haven't seen Atlanta series, but hear only great things, in which I think he created, produced, and writes for the show. So that is encouraging for someone with his talent and creativity to be so heavily involved. Mm-hmm. I'm not surprised on the budget cost for the Acolyte. The show is spending that the show is spending, but as long as it's made with plenty of time and care for the storytelling, I don't care how much they spend. I think any Star Wars film or series would struggle to not spend a lot in pre-production due to the world they are creating.
Agreed.
Yeah, and then he responds after that and says, I don't see why the open Star Wars game can't have a main story which you can complete and still have never-ending side missions or places to explore, especially with DLC they can make after the game comes out. We definitely need some more. We'll definitely need some more external storage. The gigabytes for Jedi Survivor and Hogwarts Legacy alone took up my storage.
Oh, I bet. Especially Hogwarts Legacy, I bet.
Yeah. Okay. He says, thanks for the video once again. May the Force be with you. Jojo for our council sessions episode that me and Martin did. Said great discussion. And then there's a little bit of a thread here on that. So the council sessions we did, Hannah, if you didn't see it, we talked about is Anakin the greatest Jedi of all time. What's your answer? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. I figured you'd say that. Thrawn on that one says, always a great discussion. There's never a clear answer, but I would say Anakin is not the greatest Jedi of all time due to him falling to the dark side. He was very powerful and he didn't turn. And if he didn't turn, he could have ended up the greatest, but being manipulated so easily and killing younglings has to rule him out. Mm-hmm. It's one thing leaving the Jedi or turning, but causing mass murder around the galaxy crosses the line.
Yeah.
I would think it would have to be Obi-Wan because he embodies the perfect Jedi, or Yoda because of his wealth of knowledge over 800 years. Yeah. Jojo says, totally agree. And then Cyber Ren comes back and says, yeah, it really was tough to simply pick one. That's why I was explaining it in the areas of Jedi power, knowledge, and ability. He very well would have been the best if he didn't turn, but we also have to cut him some slack. He was a young man still training, and Palpatine is the master of the dark side and a master manipulator. So with many more years of experience, Anakin really didn't have a chance. Imagine if Palpatine went after Obi-Wan or Luke when they were younger. Not sure that he stand a chance either. His story is tragic, and that's why he's my favorite Clone Wars character. It's the greatest story of all because it hurts so much to see what happens to him. And then Thrawn comes back and says, that's very true. I haven't looked at it like that before. I always thought how could Anakin turn so easily? But to your point, being so young and Palpatine grooming him to be a Sith from the start, he didn't have much of a chance. Would love a Marvel what-if story if Anakin didn't turn to the dark side. So we were just talking about that.
I don't know, and I really wish I could give this artist credit. I don't know who created these, but there's a series of like little family comic vignettes of if Anakin never turned.
Oh, really?
And it's adorable. It's like you see Padme and Luke building a sandcastle, and then you see Anakin holding Leia, and Leia's like, I don't like sand.
Oh, funny.
And there's another where they're looking at Anakin's lightsaber, the kids, and Anakin's like, don't put that down, put that down. So it's like a series of, I wish I knew the artist because it's just a bunch of brilliant little vignettes. So that would have, but yeah, the thing, I think the thing is too, is that you have to consider that Revenge of the Sith, the movie itself, if you just look at the movie, doesn't necessarily do a very good job of explaining Anakin's turn to the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
But the novelization of Revenge of the Sith,
it does.
I think it does. I think that's the best novelization of a Star Wars movie there is.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. Yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
So maybe that'll help. I don't know. But yeah, no, I don't think you can pick one Jedi to be the best Jedi of all time.
Yeah, it's Yoda.
You think it's Yoda?
I think it's Yoda. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, longevity and the fact that he never has been, obviously, that we know of, he hasn't ever been corrupted or tempted, and he
what
was
about that disciple?
Who, Yoda?
The whole Jedi Council was setting an assassin.
Well, okay, making bad decisions doesn't mean you're necessarily, over time, not the greatest Jedi.
Okay.
I mean, there was, because that's the thing, is like all governments try to assassinate people, right? I mean, it's just part.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And it's not like Jedis don't kill. I mean, we've seen Jedis kill all the time. I mean, they wield their lightsabers and just chop people down all the time. So it's like part of their, I don't know. But you're right. There was definitely decisions that the council ended up making that questions their morality a little bit. But you know, I think he's always trying to do what's best,
Okay.
even though
Yeah.
it may not be the best, the right answer.
Hi. Okay.
Anyway, this is my opinion, right?
Right.
All right. So, all right. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks everybody for watching. As always, thanks to our patrons for contributing and supporting the show. Really, really do appreciate that. Ahsoka, 2 weeks and more inside the Force as we go. Hannah, as always, thanks so much.
And Dave, as always, thank you so much.
Yes. And take care of you and your family
Thank you.
through this time. We will be back next week. Look for some council sessions coming your way, some Beyond the Sagas coming your way. We got some ones banking here, and those will be coming out soon as well. So can't believe it's already August this year. This is crazy. Right?
Oh.
Thanks everybody. Take care. We'll see you next week. May the Force be with you.